social media is not bad of itself. I think social media does have its this real world applications. It's great for sharing memories with loved ones, family, friends, lifelong memories where you could go back and look. What God was showing me, and this is something God was showing me for a long time, but I was just in denial to the point where it's like, okay, Lord, you're right. I have to step away from it.
Welcome, everyone, to the XPerience podcast. Before we get started, make sure you like, subscribe, and share our content. We have plenty of fruitful videos out there for you, from amazing testimonies to amazing conversations. And with me today, he's usually the guy behind the camera, but he's actually joining me today on the podcast. Give it up for Mr. Darryl. How do you doing, my guy?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Dude, there's a lot of great things that are happening.
Yes,
but we still need to get to 150 subscribers, obviously.
Yep, we do.
Make sure that we get there, because I'm trying to give out free merch. I'm trying to give out free stuff, but you guys just won't let me. So go ahead, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I checked the last video. 35% of you that watched have not subscribed yet. So make sure that you go out and subscribe to the channel, support it, and more importantly, give yourself an opportunity to win that free merch.
Yes.
I mean, that's free stuff is the best stuff.
Free 99.
Free 99. Guess what? You don't have to pay a dime. All you get to do is just hit that little subscription button, and you'll have the opportunity to be able to win a free Swell sweatshirt, plus a giveaway at $200, plus a giveaway at $250. And so on and so forth. So we got multiple things going on here.
Yeah. I didn't even know about the extra stuff. I knew it was free merch. I'm just now hearing this for the first time.
Oh yeah, there's gonna be more stuff.
Okay,
I like giving away free stuff. Why not?
Oh yeah, right.
Just for the support and for the thank you, and then more importantly, I believe in the movement of swellness.
Yes.
So we got to get after it. Speaking of swellness, new merch is about to drop out for that line.
Oh, yes. I got a little sneak preview on just the design, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Because really people were asking me, when are the shirts coming out?
Right.
The shirts are going to come out soon. You're going to see me wear one on a debut probably in about a couple weeks at a podcast. So I'll make sure I rep that when that happens.
Yes,
but
definitely.
Without further ado, let's get past this. So, Darryl, I actually met you last year.
Yeah.
And it was weird how we met, because I was talking to Jose, who was part of the podcast, our lawyer friend,
right,
who is a youth leader now. I was looking for men to serve in the youth ministry, and I had a long conversation. I was probably having a conversation with him about 20 minutes until you came by.
Right, I remember. Yep.
Yeah, and then Jose was like, "What about Darryl here? He'd be great for serving." I'm like, "Really? All right. Well, he's like, oh, yeah, if you want me to be part of it, I'll be part of it."
Yes.
I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Let's get after it. Check it out. See how you like it.
Yeah.
How you've enjoyed serving in youth ministry so far.
Oh, it's been awesome. Like, it's amazing how God works, because I was just like asking God, I was like, Lord, I want to be a part of something. Like, and when God lines you up, you just got to just step into it and just, put one step forward, and that's where faith is built right there. It's like, okay, Lord, I don't know where I'm going, where you're trying to take me with this. I feel like a fish out of water, but I'm going to just go for it. And about a year into it now, it's been amazing. I've made new friends. I've been able to connect with the youth, and now I'm seeing the fruit of like being a leader. Like, they look up to me now, and God is just really showing me on just like, oh wow, I can, like, Lord, help me be outside myself and to make it about them. And now I'm seeing that where it's like, hey, I see where like that man leadership, the fruit is being built in the young men now. Like, men who were quiet at first, young boys, some of the guys who weren't talking as much, now they're being more open and more direct. And so it's just like building that personal relationship with them, and just kind of like letting them know, like, hey, listen, it's not just Pastor Gabe is here for you. It's me, Jose. We're all here for you.
Exactly. No, I think the most beautiful thing that I saw amongst the young boys actually happened at the lock-in, when we had that moment of just worship and prayer, and to see, about 10 to 12 young men just gathered together in prayer together was a beautiful thing to see. We did not see that when I brought you on board in October. We were in a space where it's like, let's rebuild this ministry, see where it's at. Youth pastors have been gone for a very, very long time.
Right.
Some revamping, some changes, but then more importantly, I think just the heart for the youth and the heart for the next generation really needed to be ignited again. We really needed to be reminded of that.
Exactly.
And I was a full-blown believer that if we don't have young men that are willing to sacrifice the time and serve this next generation, then how will our younger men see that as an example, especially when they have a specific calling over their lives to in the future lead their own homes.
Exactly.
And so when we give the time to serve, the fruits of the labor show, and we're seeing a lot of young men that are really growing up deeply in their relationship with God, including a young man like Josue last week who shared his beautiful testimony, especially a kid like Christian who was part of this podcast as well. And so you're beginning to see that in its fullness. So it's an amazing thing that you're doing. Obviously, thank you for joining at a time of not only need for myself, but for need for the next generation. It's for an example to be set. We're relatively younger men, I would say. We're not old. We're not too old right now.
We're not old.
We're not old. We're getting there. But we'll reach that point at some point. But the reason why I brought you on this podcast because you have an important story and you have a lifestyle that is very, very unique. For the audience that doesn't know, Darryl here does not have any social media whatsoever. I know you'd be like,
I know, it's like, it's weird to even just say that out loud. Yeah. So yes, for those that don't know, I don't have a social media because now in the modern world and where we're at now in the times, it's like everyone has a social media. It's the norm now. It's the standard. Like, you and me, we're both millennials, and we grew up mostly without social media. I think for me and maybe you, social media, especially like Instagram, that really launched it, and Facebook, that was introduced towards
MySpace.
MySpace. Okay.
MySpace was the one that launched it. I think it was my middle school years, or maybe kind of in the elementary, where that was like the first legit social media where people connected online and did things that they wanted to do. Obviously, I think the coolest thing on MySpace was the music.
The music.
You play the music in the background. And usually a lot of it was emotional, depending on how you felt in the moment. And you knew when people were going through breakups. It was so clear. It was so obvious.
Yeah,
so
everyone was friends with Tom.
Everybody, when in doubt, you had one friend.
You had one friend. You had Tom.
You had Tom when in doubt. So.
So funny enough, I actually didn't have a MySpace. I knew of it, and I knew what was about. Like, I remember back in middle school, right, for us, I didn't have a MySpace because I was still like on the PlayStation 2 and stuff like that, the video games and playing outside. It wasn't until like really junior year of high school and moving forward to like, end of high school and some college, where that's when Instagram and Facebook came out. And I personally think Instagram was like really the game changer from that point.
So for you, it wasn't until your junior year of high school. I think same here. I didn't get Facebook was already out for a while.
It was.
I didn't really get into Instagram until I was in college. But Facebook was the one that kind of changed the game and really opened up the doors of social media.
Yeah.
So for you, getting into social media, what was the purpose of you having a Facebook or an Instagram when it had first started for you?
Well, just like any other kid, or just like any of my peers at the time, it was just everybody else was doing it. Everybody else was on Instagram. Everybody else was on Facebook. And and the thing is, when you're young and like most kids, what matters to like adolescents is like being a part of your friends, getting that validation, being part of what's new, what's hot. And so like anybody, I was just like, hey, listen, like, Darryl, this is Instagram thing. You got to be on it. And back in the day, Instagram was so much more simple than what it was today. It was just about posting photos. And it was really, if you remember, it was really built for photographers.
Oh, yeah. No, it was heavy photography, aesthetically pleasing photos about either your interests or your life's journey.
Yes.
That's essentially what it was.
Right.
Now what it's evolved into, it's everything.
It's everything. It really has. And I just want to say first, like, there's nothing. Social media is not bad of itself. I think social media does have its this real world applications. It's great for sharing memories with loved ones, family, friends, lifelong memories where you could go back and look. It's great for communication, where like, you have a lot of mainstream news outlets that post lies, and a lot of people sharing like a truth now,
Yeah.
Another one is great for building a brand like that. I think that is the number one way is social media is building your brand or a company, Instagram, Facebook, and most importantly, it's great for building and sharing the gospel.
Exactly. I think the title influencer was created
Right.
because of what social media was able to do.
Right.
When you talk about influencers back in the day, you had to drive to Hollywood. You have to go to these places. Now you can become an influencer based off of where you're stationed at.
Exactly.
In your very own home. And so it definitely created that level of interest for younger people to want to seek that route, especially maybe it becomes a lifestyle for them.
Right.
But I think the level of influence that social media creates around the world is very heavy, both on good and both on the bad spectrums.
Right.
So you're into social media. Obviously, you're tied into it. I think I got to ask, what were the moments that you said, maybe I should reconsider even having social media at all? Because that's a very, very big decision for you to make, especially in the world where it seems like social media is life, is communication, and in ways is our information.
Right.
So what made you make that decision?
It was a couple things what kind of like led me to like kind of like opt out of social media. What God was showing me, and this is something God was showing me for a long time, but I was just in denial to the point where it's like, okay, Lord, you're right, I have to step away from this. Whereas one, I was comparing myself to others on social media.
Okay.
I was comparing myself to others, and that's not healthy. Comparison is the stealer of joy. And where I would see someone post something, they're living their best life, and I felt inadequate. I already had a lot of insecurities back then because of, traumas I've went through growing up, and so social media was kind of like feeding into that still. And I kept making that excuse, was like, well, I connect with my friends, or like, well, listen, if this is product they're selling, I could buy it directly off here. I just kept making that excuse, but deep down I was hurt because I kept comparing myself, and I was starting to form my identity around social media.
So your identity was being built upon what others were posting,
Right.
or what you didn't have from what others were posting.
Right. And just also, I wanted people to just see the best of me. Like, hey, listen, like this is just, you're only getting the lens of the best of me. And I think, unfortunately, it's still like that with a lot of people in the world right now. And we know it subconsciously, but we just ignore it. Like, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah, I understand you. I think this dates back to even when we were younger. You know how many times young high school couples would post pictures of each other?
Right,
Like, we have such a great relationship, but yet
Yeah.
they break up 2 days later. It's one of those concepts of sometimes social media allows you to share the world your life experience, while at the same time, social media allows you to mask your problems.
Exactly.
And so when you have that, and you don't know who's on the other side, you don't know what's real or what's not real.
Yes.
And I think that comes into play. And I think in your situation, were there points where you questioned what was on the other side, or that you saw something that was so good, but yet so unobtainable that it made you feel a certain way about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, like I've seen so much on social media in the past. I can't remember an exact moment, but there were those moments where someone I knew posted this thing, and it's like they're so much further ahead of me in life, and oh man, they're doing this, and look, they're making an impact in the world. Or look, they're traveling the world and posting what they love and whatnot, and I'm here stuck in my little world, and it's just like, and it was just becoming unhealthy for me to constantly look at other people's lives and compare myself to them, and to just try to match up to them. And I get it. It can be inspiring, but you have to know differentiate between inspiring and between comparison.
Okay, I got you on that. So, what was your reaction to the post that you would see? At any point, did you ever react to the post by using social media, or was more of your reaction within oneself or within your own room? Because, for example, when I was growing up, sometimes when I saw something that was unattainable, I spent more time expressing myself on social media rather than expressing to loved ones, or even, I would even say, by myself, expressing my emotions in my own room.
Right.
So I would go along the lines of getting on Twitter, getting on Facebook, and beginning to express how I felt to the world.
Yeah.
Because I felt like the life that I didn't have, or the life that I did have currently, was not the life that I should have had. Or I felt like I was failing expectations. For you, what was your reaction to witnessing everything and witnessing maybe I'm not where I'm at in life? What was your reaction to all that?
So my reaction wasn't really just to go and like post comments on like bash people, you know, and do hate comments. Unfortunately, that's very common right now, especially on like Twitter and whatnot, where they call it X now. Mine wasn't that. Mine was kind of like I would take what I see on social media and then I would absorb and kind of like self-reflecting like in a depressing way, like almost like, oh man, like I'll never match up to this, or this is like, why do I feel so inadequate, why do I feel like I just can't I can't match up to these people, constant comparison. So it wasn't kind of like that, like, oh well shoot, I could do that too, like what are you talking about? Like it wasn't putting people down on social media, whatever they posted. I would like it still, but it's kind of like that feeling like that internal like insufficient and building my identity on like how I wanted people to see me.
I got you. And around what time in your life, or at what age did you decide no more social media?
So I would have to say probably 2021. I would say after.
So right after COVID.
Right after COVID, yeah. So that year of COVID, it was a lot of just depressing stuff being posted because people were scared and not knowing what to do, and people were worried at the state of the world. You know, some great things too, but then it was like going into next year, kind of like I was like, you know what, like maybe I can do without this social media thing. And so it wasn't like a cold turkey thing where I was just like, oh, delete it, I'm completely off. It was kind of like gradual steps to it, where it's kind of like, all right, I'm going to just deactivate my Instagram account. I'm going to delete the Snapchat. I'm going to deactivate my Instagram account for a week. And then what led from after a week to like, all right, let me try 2 months. And then 3 months and so on and so forth, to the point where it was like, you know what? I'm going to be okay without this.
Okay. So you're a unique person in that way, because I haven't deactivated my social media account, but I will say that I'm the person that necessarily doesn't use it to its fullest capacity. My last post was my son's first birthday party. His second birthday party is literally about to come up in weeks. So I'm not a very active guy on social media unless I'm doing it for ministry reasons, trying to promote ministry or anything like that. But I've never been a person to promote a brand or anything like that. So for your sake, you make that decision. Was it hard at times to not want to go back? Or was social media any viable resource to you at the time that was actually good for you?
It was hard. It was very hard, especially where you do about a little over a decade of just Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, Twitter, all this stuff. I mean, the list goes on, right? And then now it's like God's pulling on your heart to pull out of that. It is hard because it's like you start coming up with these excuses in your head. Well, it's like, well, I won't be able to see what my family and friends are doing. Well, like, hey, listen, I have someone who I connect to where I could buy these products from, or whatever it may be, whatever, you know, the excuse may be. It was hard at times. And if I'm being honest, it was times where I actually went back on for like a day just to see what's going on. And I'm like, oh, like, I don't need to really be back on this. Yeah. So, yeah, it was a struggle.
Now, the second part of my question that I asked, was there anything that you used social media that you would say was good, or was something like, for example, you got your news from there, you got information from there, maybe you had relationships that were built just solely off of social media, maybe longtime friends. Was there anything that was sacrificed in the process of you giving up social media?
Oh, yeah, it was good. I mean, like, I was able to connect with people who stay in touch with people who I've met like whether at jobs or at school, who were great people, stay in contact with them and see how they're doing. Family from different parts of the world. I have family on the East Coast, and so for the family, I had Facebook with them. I had them on Facebook, and they were able to just kind of see what was going on with them. I may not call them every day, but I was able to see what's going on and see positive posts being put on Instagram at the time, where it was like some encouraging words or devotionals. I was like, oh, well, I need to read this at the time. This is something I need for me and where I'm at right now through this week. I'm going through a rough week, and I read something positive or something inspiring someone posted.
Okay, I got you. So now you're completely off social media, but you would have to debate this. Obviously, we're gonna have for somebody that sees the lifestyle of having social media as good, or maybe as there's a person that says, social media, you can live without it. Where do you stand on it? You made your choice. You don't want social media. But do you believe it's good for people to have social media? Do you believe it's necessary for people to have social media? Or would you say just get rid of it all? Or is there a balance that should be had?
There should be a balance. There absolutely should be a balance. Again, like social media does have its application. I think it can reach the masses. It just all depends on what's being posted on social media. Where you could use your platform to encourage, to lift people up, to draw people closer to Christ. Awesome. That is something I even encourage. But if you're using social media to post stuff that can tempt or lead someone away or to discourage people, that's where it gets dangerous. And it just and it could have people, especially the younger people, stumble. And, it's something, I want to be honest about. It's like one of the other reasons why I had to get out of social media, because it's just too much temptation. You have women from all over the world posting these photos, revealing photos, and then they have their links on their Instagram to OnlyFans and all this stuff. And it's just and it was a two-edged sword. It was I'm going to social media because I'm comparing myself to others because I'm afraid of dealing with my real circumstances. But at the same time, social media is temptation to these other things that can lead me away. And so that's one of the other reasons. And so to answer your question, where it's it's balance and just having those boundaries up on social media.
Do you fit? Because I'm in social media 2024. I don't know how many times I feel like I have to refresh my feed because there's just so much out there, especially along the lines of temptation, of lust, it's almost ridiculous at this point. And there are days where I'm like, if it weren't for the youth ministry, do I really need this? If I'm not going out there and promoting the youth ministry, I have my personal page so people can get in contact with me for ministry reasons. And, I can kind of share the moments and see what my wife posts, what my family posts, and it really can. But outside of that, with the exception of maybe like my sports news, because I don't keep the ESPN app or anything like that. I follow pages like, follow my favorite football team or something like that. But there's so much temptation out there in the world.
Yes.
And there's really no filter to it. Like, there's no guidelines for it. It feels like there's no guidelines for it.
Yeah.
When it comes to that aspect of it, do you feel that young people, younger than 18, should they be able to have access to social media knowing that that's out there, and at some point, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when is that stuff going to penetrate through, especially for young people?
Yeah. I'm going to say yes. I think I'm not even a parent, but if I had a son or daughter, I'd be like, listen, they'll be upset, but listen, no social media until you 16 or 18, because we're having younger and younger kids get on social media, Instagram, TikTok now.
Yeah.
And TikTok, I never even used TikTok, at least on my own phone, but I've held other devices and swiped through it when people are showing me videos, and I can see how this can be addicting for the younger generation, how they can have short attention spans because it's just instant gratification, instant. It's getting harder for our youth to focus now, and it's a scary thing because it's they're expecting immediate gratification, immediate action on whatever the video on TikTok and Instagram. And so, yes, it's something that I would personally I wouldn't allow my kids to have, up into a certain age where it's like, okay, you're old enough. If you want to be on this, you can be on it. Just be careful, because I've seen the ramifications of what it could have on, the younger generation right now, where their whole life is built around TikTok, Instagram, and whatnot. And I have someone who I know who's close to me, a family member, and they're young, like they're in high school, but I saw them on TikTok back when they were middle school, and now like they're a little older now in high school. They're doing TikTok dances and stuff, and it's fine and all, but it's like, try to have a conversation with them with the phones down. They can't keep their phones down for more than 5 seconds. It's like, oh man. So
nah, I feel like, oh man, that's everybody's fault right now. I even including myself at times. Right. Like I say, you kind of get so caught up in what's happening out in the world, and you find these funny videos, and you run into these random clips. And you're like, this is cool, this and that, And sometimes it distracts you from reality. And I find that even myself at times, especially when you have a down day. You don't want to do anything. You just kind of want to get your mind off of things. What is one of the easiest things to do? Go on social media, scroll through some videos, send a couple funny ones to the wife, especially when a baby is smacking the dad or something like that. Like it's just those random things, those random moments. But it's really just to kind of like get away. But at the same time, sometimes I have to reflect, and I'm like, am I really being productive right now?
Exactly. It could be so time consuming.
Yeah, like I love my video games. I like to scroll through random videos, but sometimes there are days where I'm like, gosh, dang, Like sometimes it's like late at night, okay, what can I do to be productive? But sometimes if I'm doing it during the day, I'm like, am I being productive right now with my time? Exactly. And I think that's the temptation that I fall into at times. It's just like being stuck there.
Yeah.
And I'm happy that I'm a person that's not necessarily posting as much, not trying to devote my life into it. Like I have other things like this podcast, youth ministry, my family. Obviously, my family's a big one that I want to invest into. But the social media factor for the younger generation, it becomes to the point to where we get so consumed in it that we forget about reality. We forget about physical relationships with others. We forget about the fact that maybe you live in a household with parents or guardians that love you, that want to spend time with you, that want to cherish you, that want to build you up. There's only so much that you can get from your screen.
Exactly.
But we need real life experience. We need a real life relationship with God. Like I would even say that in accounts for Christianity and social media. It's not enough to watch a service on your phone. It's not enough to watch a clip and think you received something. No, it's community with others, with pastors, with loved ones, with people that will build you up in your faith, and then more importantly, the book itself.
Exactly.
And actually reading and digesting into it yourself rather than expecting a screen to feed you.
Exactly. No, I totally agree. That's one of the other things is where like what I've been, I don't know if you consider YouTube a social media, but that's like the only thing I'm still on is YouTube.
That's not a social media.
Okay, yeah.
I would call that more along the lines of entertainment. Entertainment. Yeah. Obviously, it's a big resource now for your news and all that. Informational. Informational,
yeah. So I'm still on YouTube, and I see a lot of like the newer generation. They're posting their ministries on YouTube, which is great and all. But they're also like, hey, I have a link to my Instagram, and I'm pretty sure they're posting the same stuff. Yeah. And on one hand, I get it. Like this is probably one of the ways you reach the younger generation, because 99% of them, especially here in the West, are on social media. Maybe third world countries are not, but here in the West, like they are on social media. So I get if there's a way you can reach them is through social media. But at the same time, like I totally agree. Like community is something about community. You can't replicate that. Yeah. No matter how many followers you have or how many videos you post or how many views you get. That's great and all, but it's something about being in the same room with somebody on Sunday service or youth night that's so real, and you can't just recreate that. It's something it transcends, I don't know if I'm not trying to sound super fancy and philosophical with it, but it's something that transcends, social media when it comes to the human experience.
Yeah.
as they say, we're more connected now than ever, but at the same time, we're so disconnected at the same time.
That's a great way to put it. I use this example. So I got to go to my first ever Michigan versus Ohio State game. First ever time. It was part of my bucket list. I decided last year, especially while I was in ministry, and I'm going to take the time to spend time with my family. I'm going to go do things I haven't done before. So I love watching that game and the feelings that it gives me, supporting my favorite team against my biggest rival.
Right.
Especially because we're winning 3-game winning streak. Okay, I just want to put that out there. National champions. I just want to put that out there. But the feeling that it brings just watching it on the screen, it brings something out of me.
Right.
But when I went there, oh my gosh, nothing beats it. I was like, I don't think I'll ever feel or experience a football game, like in general, like this ever in my life.
Exactly.
It's so much different. One, because it's the East Coast, it's the biggest rivalry in football. But I also compared it to a Cowboys and Niners game that I went that same exact year. I'm like, yeah, this doesn't even compare. Like this game, this experience, people are standing up shoulder to shoulder, freezing. It's about to snow soon. Like
exactly.
And it was just such a great experience. And it kind of reminded me of a moment that we had during the COVID year of ministry when we were about to open up our doors. We decided to try to do that hybrid thing.
Right.
We're like, hey, our doors are open, but we'll go ahead, we'll do the service live on Instagram.
Yeah.
And doors were open, we'd have like 6 kids show up, and we would still have the live going. We did this for like 3 weeks. And then I just felt like the Spirit of God, and I began to feel the same. Began to feel like, so let's just cut the camera out and let's just go for it.
Yeah.
And so at that moment, I'm like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. No live tomorrow. It's only going to be live service over. You know how many kids showed up that next day?
Oh, how many?
45 kids showed up.
Wow.
So we went from 6 kids showing up to a hybrid service in person to 45 kids showing up. That almost in ways in our walk with faith, if we give young people or people the opportunity to be filled by watching a screen, then at times we're taking away the actual experience of the gathering from them if we allow that to happen. So in that moment, I said, I'm going to take this away. Why? Because there's an important necessity of the gathering that needs to happen.
Right.
And young people want it, not need it. They want it.
Right.
But if you give them an outlet or an option to say, stay away, then they're going to take that.
They're going to take it, yeah.
And so it was such a key moment, I believe, in the time of youth ministry for New Season Youth, where honestly, I would say out of all the decisions I ever made as a youth pastor, that was one of the most important decisions I made because it drove me crazy watching on the screen. I couldn't imagine what it was doing to young people being separated from their friends and their schools and their loved ones.
Yeah.
And then more importantly, even today, like young people want to come and they want to experience something new and fresh. And if we're not giving them that, if we're not giving them that opportunity, then they're not going to show up. And in the same way, if we're not giving people in the church an opportunity to gather and express themselves and be filled by the Holy Spirit, and it's like, it's okay, you can do this. I'm like, no, that's not what the gathering is. And in the same way, our life experiences, you can experience so much on your phone, but imagine experiencing it in person, in real life.
Yeah.
It's so amazing.
It is.
It's so beautiful.
I absolutely 100% agree. It's something different about the gathering, whether it's a sporting event, whether it's hanging out with friends, coming to church, and even going on a date, just this, whether, something about going on a date and talking with that girl or guy and actually seeing each other in person, getting each other's energy feedback, then talking through direct message on Instagram. You can't replicate all that stuff on social medias. And, it's something about the gathering that's so important and sacred.
Another thing, too, about COVID, I felt so much more comfortable seeing a doctor in person than I did on the phone.
Yes.
Like, when I had a broken leg that time and I'm just talking to a physician over the phone, I'm like, this is not my vibe, bro. I want you to see my leg.
Exactly.
I don't want you to, how do you feel? I feel broken. Like, what do you want me to say? I don't know how to feel. I need you to tell me, doc. And so there's so much importance, and this all relates to the life experience. I think social media is a great place to have to gather information because it's left out there. I think it's important, obviously, to decipher what's right and wrong, what's true and false. I believe it's a way where you can stay in connection with people that maybe are long gone away, you know?
Yeah.
Check to see how they're doing, posting family pictures, all that. But I don't believe social media should be a lifestyle. You know? Yeah. I don't believe your life should be defined by what you do on social media.
Right.
I'm not the kind of guy, I'm not a blue check mark guy. That's not something that I seek after. And I don't want young people to feel like they have to seek after that kind of need to be attended to that point to where, like, look how many followers I have, this and that. This is how many friends I have. And I'm like, yeah, but how many of them are going to show up to your wedding? How many of them are many of them are going to show up to your funeral?
Yeah.
You know? We want to have real life impact with real life people.
Exactly.
And not all of that is going to happen through your screen. There's that level of personality and that personal to be so personable to the point to where we build these relationships that last for a very long time. Why? Because we got to talk like this, you know, not through a screen or not through that, you know. Yeah, we're doing a podcast on the screen. Why? Because we want to be informational. We want to teach you guys something. But the part of the community part of it is us having honest conversation and being authentic and being real, being unfiltered. We may be right. We may be wrong. People may differ for our opinion, but it's okay. We get to express that. We get to sit down. We get to talk about it. And so having that opportunity to be able to do that is a beautiful thing to see. And we want to continue to do that. But then more importantly, I think at times, man, we gotta step away and just look at life.
Exactly.
And live life. And
be in the moment.
Be in the moment. And then when that moment happens, share that moment with the people. Go ahead and share that moment, but allow the moment to happen first.
Yeah.
You can't share a moment if you didn't allow the moment to happen.
Exactly.
So, oh man. So let's leave it with this. The final thing that I want to ask you. What would be your advice for someone that wants to take that route? If there's somebody out there in the audience that's saying, I'm contemplating on deleting my social media, what's the process for them to do that? And then more importantly, what will help them get through that process?
Yeah. So if you're someone who if your heart is leading you, God is leading you to opt out of social media, or even just take, as they say, a long hiatus. You guys like, listen, I got to stay off for a month, a sabbatical, take a sabbatical. Like, I got to be off for a month, 6 months, whatever it may be. I would say that the first thing I want to say is to encourage someone who's like, listen, life is still life in. Everything's going to be okay. It's not the end of the world. If you miss that message from someone, guess what? It's okay. But also, I just want to say it is great to take breaks from social media. You get to really step back and be like, oh, wait a minute. There's other things in life I can be doing right now. I can focus more on this hobby I've been wanting to pick up. I can get closer to God. That's one thing that really helped me getting out social media. It took a lot of the noise out, and it was like, okay, I have a leisure time where I can like get into my word and pray and know God's word. And so that's been I would say that's been the biggest blessing, is be able to draw closer to God. And so if you're someone, you know, who you get distracted easily, or you're where it's temptation, that's why you have to get out, or you're comparing yourself, whatever it may be, or it's harder for you to focus on God's word or other projects, take that break from it. Deactivate your account. Last time I heard, you deactivate your Instagram account as long as you want. They never delete it, which is cool. Yeah. You know, I know how some social media is like, you if you're deactivated more than 30 days, we'll delete it. So if you're someone who's contemplating on just taking a break from it, take a break from it. You know, it's an amazing thing, and there was a life before social media, and you can experience that and really learn other things you could be doing in that time.
That's great advice, man. I really appreciate that. Honestly, I'm gonna receive a little bit from it. I'm not gonna lie to you. Yeah. I think my advice for young people, and I'm going to even speak to myself a little bit, don't allow it to be your gateway to get out of things. You know, I think there are realities in life that you have to face. There are things that you may be going through. If it's great, great. If it's bad, I'm sorry. We'll be praying for you. We'll continue to keep that in mind. But don't allow it to be your gateway of escape. Don't allow it to be something where you're just scrolling on through while at the same time you're still wandering your mind on what's going on in your life. I think the biggest impact that social media does that ultimately leads us to lust is uncertainty. It's
and also fear of missing out.
Fear of missing out, and more importantly, a lacking of an identity. And when you lack an identity, you build your identity based off of what's out there, what's influential, what's popular. We don't want you to feel like that, And I'm speaking of my generation, other generations. We don't want to get caught up in all the noise. We want it to be a healthy space. If you do use it, we let it be a healthy space. Share good memories. Be positive. Be creative. Use your gifts and so on and so forth. But don't let it be a place where it destroys you. Don't allow the enemy to get in your mind that you're unworthy, that God is not in control of this world, that you have no hope. That's just not true. Don't allow social media or the enemy to paint a picture that everything is not okay. Yeah, are the things not okay? Absolutely. But everything is okay. Why? Because he's in control. Amen. He's in complete control of everything. And so if you're going to take that step, go for it. Feel free to do it. And honestly, we want to hear some comments and some testimonies, and we want to hear that, whether if you want to email us through our page or if you want to comment here. But take that leap of faith and go for it. I encourage it. Now, personally, for me, I'm going to continue to do what I do because I have a ministry to run, and I want to continue to do that. I may do a podcast myself talking about this very same subject, or continuing this. I don't know when I'm going to do it. It may be next week, and maybe whenever, but we're going to figure it out. But don't allow your identity to be built upon that, and don't allow it to define you. That's the most important thing that I want to let you know. Why? Because there is a life out there. There is a real life that we live pre-2005 when this all began.
That's so true, man.
And it was a beautiful life where we get to experience laugh, joy, everything. And we got to experience things in many different ways, And so there's still an experience out there for you, even without social media. But it is a beautiful way to connect. So let it be a place where you can connect, This page is for you to connect. This place is for you to get information. We want this to be a fruitful thing, not so that you're following me, you're following Darryl, you're following our guests. No, but we want it to be informational. We want it to be fruitful, and more importantly, we want it to be a place to connect. And so, thank you for joining. This was a great episode.
Thank you for having me.
And like I said, make sure to like, subscribe, stay in touch with us. We got plenty of content coming out in the near future. We're planning on a really big September, so I'm really excited for that. But without further ado, we love you. God bless you, and I hope that this was an experience for you. Peace.